better roll them dice. You never know if it could change your life. Take a chance, you need the wrong or right. You never know if you don't roll them dice. You better roll them dice.
Dragon delves, dragon delves, dragon delves, dragon delves. Dracolisks, pits and snares, gotta be dragon delves. Hi, I'm Larry the Dungeon Master.
And I'm Bob the Dungeon Master, and this is Dungeon Master of None.
Yeah, we're talking about our favorite early morning direct to VHS Christian computer animated adventure anthology, not VeggieTales, Dragon Delves. Rob slapped my big dragon ass, Rob.
Dragon ass. You know, Matt, the beautiful thing about Dragon Delves, like VeggieTales, is that even though dragons are unable to receive the grace of God, they still preach the gospel to us and bring us closer, even though they are explicitly forbidden from seeing heaven themselves.
That's right. Didn't someone ask the VeggieTales creator, like, will I see Larry the tomato in heaven? And he's like, no.
Yeah, no. This is deep. This is deep. Christian lore.
I mean, it wraps back to our Tolkien. Are there orcs in heaven? You know.
It does. Either the creator or the creator's wife was like, yeah, no, there's a reason why we never depicted Jesus as a vegetable, and that's because vegetables can't go to heaven, and none of these animated vegetables will ever see the light of Christ because vegetables cannot receive the grace of salvation. That is, look it up. It's amazing. It's honestly, like, it's an incredible thing to say. It's truly like one of the more grim and insane things you will ever hear about a children's vegetable show. Anyway, rest in peace, VeggieTales, because you'll find none in the afterlife. Anyway, Dragon Delves is a book.
You're going to be roasted. It's a book. It's nothing to do with VeggieTales. Wizards of the Coast. It's an anthology adventure series. It came out this summer, and we forgot to notice it came out.
We forgot to notice it. But now for Wizardsmas, on our third day of Wizardsmas, I'm here. I got a chunky sweater. Mm-hmm. I have a glass of nog, and we're gonna talk about Dragon Delves. Finally, we're gonna work our way through more of
cozy
Wizards backlog. But yeah, what is this book? What's going on here with the Dragon Delves, Matt?
Well, so it's a shorter adventure series. We've got 10 anthology adventures, and Rob, just wouldn't you know it, there are 10 canonical D&D chromatic and metallic dragons, and every one of the adventures features one of those dragons. What a coincidence, and it's a fun coincidence. So every dragon delve, or D-delve, as I like to call it, like Dragon Wars, D-Wars, Dragon Delves, D-delves, has a dragon, and it has a delve. It has a dungeon. The low-hanging fruit here is Wizards is like, God, what do we write a adventure about? Wait a second. They like see the title hanging in their conference writer room. It's like, oh, what about dragons and dungeons? What if we do that?
So this is a adventure anthology. We've gotten a lot of these. There's your, Tales from the Yawning Portal, your Journeys of the Radiant Citadel, something of the Infinite Staircase. So listen, I love an adventure anthology. What they have not done, Candlekeep, whatever the full title of Candlekeep was, what they've not done for this one is bother with much of a framing device or central overarching plot. I think that's actually probably a good idea. The ones that they had come up with recently felt really thin to me, and I did not particularly like the attempt to link together a bunch of very tenuously related adventures. So these are all thematically related. They're about or involve dragons, and there's a suggestion for how you might roll this up into an adventure, but you're not expected to. I think that's a smart idea.
It's almost this is a compliment. Wizards has said, we're not very good at linking these anthologies together. Why don't we don't? Just figure it out for yourself. And that works fine. There's also a weird bit while we're in the introductory part about like, what if you want to run this for one player? And while there are some suggestions, I think the overall advice is don't, because these are adventures made for an entire party. And you would have to maybe design a different role-playing game or do like way more serious work, like let's say create a party of hirelings or massively restructure how adventuring works to do that. So that inclusion was a little weird.
That was strange.
I wasn't really sure about like, what about this adventure anthology out of the like 8 Wizards of the Coast has produced makes it a good idea for one-on-one role playing. But the advice is there for some reason.
This is not written as like a beginner adventure or a beginner set or anything, though there is more in the way of instruction and advice than in some of the older books. They're just generally doing a better job of telling you how to run these. But you're given some very thin introduction, and then you're thrown into the adventures themselves, which start at low level and go to sort of like the middle tier. And they well, shall we just talk about the adventures, Matt? Is there anything else we want to talk about, sort of like the structure of the book, or should we just jump in?
If you don't want to listen to us get into the nitty-gritty of the each adventures, my overall review is it is what it is on the tin. There are one-shots that are not connected that all have dragons in them, which is fine. It might even be good, depending on some of them. So that's what you're getting. And then my other big picture thing is the physical copy, like the paper seemed not as good. I know no one cares about that, and our listeners get mad at us when I point out like things about layout or design. But like I was like,
it matters to me, Matt. I don't care what our listeners think.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh, the one other thing I want to say is that this is actually kind of an art book. There's a lot of art from older editions of all of the dragons. Each adventure, each delve ends with a bunch of classical art of each type of dragon from older editions and some newer art. This is cool. You could think of this as buying both like an adventure book and an art book. I'm not sure that it's like great as either, but if that sounds interesting to you, that might sort of be like a selling point. It's got a bunch of like pretty pictures in it that are unique from older editions of D&D, which are really cool. So that is definitely like a unique selling point of
You'll
this.
Get copies of 10 Magic the Gathering cards.
Yes, that's true. Also that. Okay, let's jump in.
Let's just get to it. Chapter 1, Death
Let's get
at
to it.
Sunset. It's a level 1 adventure, and the dragon is green.
It's green. It's green. It's in a forest. It's in a swamp. It's a classic green dragon first level adventure. What's going on in Death at Sunset, Matt? What kind of thing do we have to deal with?
Yeah, you got to fight a small dragon, but there was once a big dragon. There's an elf grove full of redwoods, opposite of green. You should know that have been like poisoned and cursed. And the adventurers like go investigate this grove and figure this out. I have to say, of the adventures, this one was not at the top of my list.
This one I would describe as pretty middling, to be honest. It wasn't awful, but it also wasn't great. It's kind of like there's a tedious fetch quest followed by a okay dungeon, and I don't have a whole lot to recommend this. It's okay.
It's fine. Like the idea of the setting of a dragon lair being an elf like redwood grove is cool, but then like when you get into it, the actual like dungeon part is essentially one big room, which is to me not a good dungeon, but maybe that's just me. If you want to get straight to the boss fight, That's fine. Here, let me give you 2 examples, Rob, of where this adventure could have made more interesting stuff, but they waste words. Once the characters have retrieved the samples, Gwyn Humera can brew up 10 vials of antitoxin each day. It's up to the characters how they'd like to distribute those antitoxins among themselves. Do we need that second sentence? Like, it's just really like, okay, come on. What are we doing here? Give me the information to run the adventure, not to like manage interpersonal party stuff.
In general, this book, like many recent Wizards offerings, has a lot of wasted words about the wrong things. And yeah, there's just like not much going on in this adventure, and I think it's just kind of being padded a little bit. It's not the worst example of this, but it's just really not much happens. If your players get around to the tedious fetch quest part of it, they can go to the dungeon right away and be done with the adventure in like 30 minutes, you know?
Great. Maybe that's what you want. I will say, if you want to run this, the like key linchpin that maybe you need to fix is that the evil dragon / wormling that has some relationship with the previous dragon has a lot of people working for it, that it's convinced they're like working for it by blackmail. Or it's basically said to them, hey, do evil for me, very evil things, or I will like kill some people. And based on like the stat blocks and the like vibes, not convinced that's actually the case. So there's a lot of NPCs that's like, you gotta find some way to convince them not to work for this dragon. And as it is, you just showing up is enough to convince them, because they're like, oh, maybe I can fight this dragon. I would say, as the game master, if you're going to run this one, try and come up with some like more interesting reasons why these good people are working for this evil dragon, besides the evil dragon just says, I'm going to destroy everything, which is, by the way, what I'm doing right now with you helping me out. Have some like souls imprisoned in its trees, or a thing that it can use to poison the whole forest or something. I don't know. You gotta help this one out a little bit.
I do think the nugget here, that a green dragon died and her egg hatched a wormling later on. The wormling, there's a cool sort of echo here, right? The green dragon was death at sunset. The wormling is sunset is nigh. This is a neat sort of like kernel of an idea. What they have built around it is not particularly interesting, but you could do something with that if you want.
Enough said about this first one. Let's move on to chapter 2, Baker's Doesn't.
Baker's
a
Doesn't.
Sort of fairy tale Hansel and Gretel.
So I'm on the record many times as criticizing Wizards for not doing anything interesting, not being willing to take risks, not willing to break from the formula.
Yep.
And so it would be hypocritical of me to not point out that this adventure does exactly that. Now, I don't know if I like what they've done here, Matt, but I have to admit that it's something. That
this breaks from the formula. I like this one. This is the story of 2 bakeries, alike in, dignity and whatever the line is. And the player, one of them is burning down, and it turns out, there's a gold dragon that bakes the bread in one of them, fires the oven, and that's why it's so good. But there's a hag that works for one of the other ones, and the players have to go into like a evil candy cane hag house. And I like it. I like the art style. It's completely different than everything else you'll see in Wizards books, and I think this one's a fun little fairy tale one-shot.
I mean, I guess what I'm saying here is the dragon's name is Brioche Bane, right? There's a gigantic animated doll named Bubba Wugga, right? It's goofy in the extreme, but it is kind of fun and different. And honestly, this would be kind of a great one to run for kids. Also, I mean, for adults, it would be funny. It's just like, it's very Hansel and Gretel, but like cartoonish Candyland. It's super goofy, but I can't really like criticize it for that because they knew what they were trying to do and they stuck the landing, and a gigantic baby's doll with one eye that says "kitchen's closed" is kind of funny. So I gotta give him credit.
I also have to give them credit for writing like a tiny mystery, like a bakery burns down. The players are put into action to put it out, and then there's a chance to like search for clues, and there's like enough clues, I think, actually, to figure out what's going on here. And that kind of kickstarts the mystery. The players head off to a dungeon, which is the hag's house, and the dungeon is wacky in all the best hag ways. This one was definitely in my top section of adventures.
This is definitely one of the best, and it is a genuinely well-written adventure. I struggled with the theme a bit, but that's a me problem. This is goofy and fun and different and genuinely pretty well designed. They did something good here.
The theme will not be for everyone, but I think the adventure writing is, which takes us to Chapter 3, The Will of Orcus.
Will of Orcus.
Oh, and the dragon in the last one was gold. This one's silver, if we're just keeping track.
This one's silver. Yep. So we've had green, gold, and now silver. This one is kind of neat. Madam, I'm curious to hear what you thought. There's a silver dragon that has made its home in a temple of Orcus and is speaking to a bunch of cultists pretending to be something else and manipulating them.
Right.
This is not immediately
it's
obvious.
Wizard
to
of
the
Ozing
players.
them.
It's Wizard of Ozing them. Not obvious to the players. They'll have to figure it out as they go into the Temple of Orcus. I think this is like a nice, like a fun twist.
Two things in praise of this adventure, which is one, the players get an incomplete map of the dungeon before they dungeon delve. That's fun. That's a fun conceit. And number two, the idea of a good dragon controlling an evil cult and then making them incompetent is a great idea. That's a brilliant idea.
It's fun.
My problem is that there's no way for the players to figure out that this is an incompetent cult. Like, this is a conceit for not a one shot, but like a 2 or 3 shot where they interact with the cult and they're stealing things, but then they're like returning them to the people who need them. And it's like, what's going on here? They have no chance to see this cult's incompetence. So it's just straight to the wizard.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, when they get there, they're supposed to the silver dragonling tries to figure out if the characters are friendly by giving them tasks to do, and I just like random like fetch quests and weird I don't know, just goofy things to do, time wasters. And it's like I can't see any group doing this without like knowing what's going on, without getting annoyed or just resorting to violence. That's when the adventure kind of falls apart for me, is this part. But I do like the idea. I think it's neat, but it doesn't really come together, and I'm having trouble imagining how you would run this.
It's also pretty easy to kind of go straight to the end in the dungeon.
Yeah.
I dislike the layout of this dungeon. Maybe that's a personal problem, but when it's combined with there's a map and there's the place to go on the map, I can't imagine that players wouldn't go straight to the statue, which I think is what the adventure wants. But then you have to buy into just what Rob said, the worst part of adventures design, where an NPC says, do a dumb task, and then the players do it, and then they come back. Like, I don't like that.
Yeah. There's something
Bring me a
workable here,
wheel
but
of
as
cheese.
written, I don't care for it. Yeah.
Read this one for the idea of, hey, what if there was an incompetent cult that actually the people were evil, but they just sort of fought with other evil and killed themselves and did incompetent things? What's going on here? And then let's rescue the good fake leader of the cult who's Wizard of Ozing them and figure out how to take down a higher level of it. That's a great idea. So read it for that idea, maybe not for the adventure. So we're on to chapter 4. For whom the bell calls. No, for whom the void calls. Bell tolls, void calls. Get it straight.
For whom the void calls. Yeah. This is... Let's see. What's our dragon for this one? Brass dragon. We got a brass dragon in this one. So
our dragon is brass.
Green, gold, silver, and now brass.
Level 5 now.
At the center of this adventure is a pretty kind of a cool idea. There's a bag of devouring that's pretending to be a bag of holding that has been tricking this brass dragon and making it increasingly angry by eating all of its valuables. The whole thing takes place in an astral zone. There is this one I think has a pretty unique setting, a fun premise, a weird dungeon. I like this one. I think it's kind of neat.
I think the location is great. We've got a Githyanki Kretch on the material plane that used to have a portal. A brass dragon has made its lair. The brass dragon is commanding modrons that the Githyanki used to construct it. And there's an evil, cursed, intelligent bag of holding that is, I guess, our true villain here. That is also our quest giver. I think this one is pretty fun in practice if your players don't think about things that long. What does the cursed bag of holding actually want? Doesn't it just want to eat magic items, and isn't it in the best place to do that? Because it does seem to have the dragon completely fooled. Why does it want to leave the dragon's hoard? And then there's a lot of other logical consistencies. Why is a chaotic brass dragon working with modrons who are lawful neutral? Why does a Githyanki person show up and say, I'm from the neutral planet. Hello, I don't want anything here. Goodbye. Give your NPCs stuff they want, make the things they want logical. And then this one I think would be really fun because it is a cool idea. What if a evil bag of holding was a mastermind and is slowly driving a dragon insane?
I mean, yeah, Matt, you're exactly right. If your players are just willing to just go at a dungeon and not worry too much or think too hard about it, this is a pretty neat, well-designed, interesting dungeon. It doesn't make a lot of sense in sort of greater context, but it's a very interesting, unique, competently designed dungeon with some cool stuff going on.
Here's the thing, is that I slowly started to notice over reading Dragon Delves, is that the ones that have good dragons, for the most part, really, because a good dragon is good, and the assumption is the heroes are good. They swing for high concepts, and if they were batting in Major League Baseball, they'd be some of the greatest of all time. But since they're adventures, batting 350% is maybe not great. Because lots of parts of this one don't make sense and are very weirdly written. A Gith shows up, civil but unhelpful. Quara wants to find out why the alarm was triggered and then return to the astral plane. She has no interest in the character's quest or the dragon's claim to the outpost. Okay, well then why include this? Is there nothing else to do with this NPC? Don't they want to reclaim their outpost? I don't know. It's some of the decisions here were a little baffling to me, including the overall plot.
On to the next one.
Chapter 5, The Dragon of Najkir, has the distinction of being the first Dragon Delves to just put dragon in the title. And we've got a bronze dragon, and we've got an island, we've got monks, we've got assassinations. This, man, again, I really like the setup of this one.
Yeah, there's a really cool idea at the core of this. There's an island of monks. There's some assassins. There's a lot of like intrigue and deception. There's people pretending to be people they're not. The players have to unravel a mystery that does involve a dragon. I don't really think that it works, but I did sort of appreciate that they were trying to do something interesting here, even if it didn't really come together.
This one was my number one candidate for a fixer-upper adventure, in that, like, this is a great one-shot if you change, like, 3 or 4 things that involve a little bit of work, because there are 2 major issues, at least from my game mastering opinion, the way I run my games with this one-shot, which is, one, it relies maybe a little too heavily on a backstory and that the players never get to experience, right? There is a bronze dragon that is good, that has been corrupted by an evil son. And we've all encountered an evil son before. He had a good mom.
We sure have.
But he's this dragon. This dragon feels loyalty to him. It was once her steed when she was a great knight, but he's a real son of a bitch. Why? We don't know. He's from a kingdom where there's assassinations and politics. We're told several times.
No reason. It would help if there was like a explanation for why he sucks, but there isn't. But it is an interesting idea, right? The mother is good, a good knight, and her son is an awful piece of shit, and the dragon is loyal. That's kind of like a cool nugget for an adventure.
This is cool if Rob, maybe I'm too far afield here. I feel like the adventure writer took this from like a campaign they read, and this was like, wow, this was like the best like one-off adventure I ran during this campaign that was mostly about these knights and their like politics and assassinations back in the kingdom. And I'll just put that in the adventure background and then make it as a one-shot. And that's kind of fine, but like there's no way to discover that in the adventure if you haven't been running 7 levels of campaigns in Dragon Rider Assassination Kingdom. The good things about this adventure is it's got I think a well laid out dungeon and a fun opening where you have to survive a ship attack by a dragon. The other bad thing about the adventure is that if you play it as written, the players arrive at the monastery, which is a cool laid out dungeon, and the monks tell them, yeah, there's this guy here. He sucks and he's corrupted the dragon. We'll take you down to where he is so you can, I don't know, deal with him, kill him probably, and then tell the dragon about how bad he is. That's not very interesting, and also, I don't know, kills the cool dungeon you laid out. The big change I would make is if you have the dragon and this evil son like take over this monastery, like their minions are filling the dungeon. Sure, it was once filled with monks. Now it's filled with like bad guys, and there are some people they can talk to find this out. Yeah, that's an easy fix, and then I think this is a really cool adventure.
I agree with Matt 100%. I think this is a prime candidate for fixing up. I also got to agree with you, Matt. I think this definitely feels like a part of somebody else's campaign, and they were like, yeah, you're going to love hearing about the Kingdom of Assassins and the Order of Dragon Riding Knights, and what do you mean you don't have any context for this and you don't know why you should care about any of these people? Yeah. It's interesting if you're maybe reading it as the GM, but your players aren't going to know any of this shit, and it's going to be very hard for them to learn it. And but this is fixable, and there's a cool idea here, I think.
Yeah, and a fun like negotiation with the dragon if you set things up differently. So instead, the evil son, Rahman, has taken over the monastery, or something else has gone on. Don't run it as a dungeon, this huge dungeon where an NPC just delivers you to the final part. That's silly.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Dragon of Najkir, our candidate for fixing up, and we're on to Chapter 6, The Forbidden Veil, which we can't talk about. It's forbidden.
Right. Matt, I think so. This one is also kind of interesting. This also, now that you've said it, kind of has the feel of maybe a part of somebody's long-running campaign that they didn't get to use, because there's, once again, some really like deep backstory, but I can't figure out why I should be interested or care about it. That being said, the overall sort of structure of this is kind of neat to me. There's a big grove of trees that's on fire, and then they've got to deal with the fires by going to a ziggurat, and the ziggurat is its own nifty little dungeon. This is a longer one too. This is probably, as written, 3 or 4 sessions, but
this is not a one shot.
Not a one shot. I think it's interesting.
I like this. Here's why this setup is interesting. Is there's a dragon. There was once another dragon. Now there's a dragon that burns a very agriculturally productive place every 200 years. And it's been doing it for so long that the people who live there, some of them view this as like a good thing and part of the cycle of nature. And I think that's just an interesting conceit for the players to figure out.
Neat, yeah.
And Rob has mentioned this one has all this like backstory for why this happens. The good news is that the players will get a chance to discover that through play, through the dungeon crawling. The bad news is they don't get a chance to discover it till the end, but I do think it's interesting because eventually they'll get to make the decision, hey, do we just kind of let this evil dragon keep doing its thing? It's locked in this cycle where it just burns this like cropland down every 200 years, but some of the locals like it, and it kind of makes things very, productive. Maybe we don't do that, or maybe we kill the dragon and merchants can set up a resort here.
Yeah, I think it's well written, and even though it's a lot of backstory, it's more depth and better explained over time than in some of the other adventures we've read. And the Gardens of Zabatzut is a cool dungeon. This one I think mostly works. It's a little weird, but I think it's interesting. It's trying to do something fun while sort of like sticking to the rough general formula of an adventure. This one's very competently done. I think this one's pretty workable as is. It's also got a red dragon, classic red dragon. Everybody loves a red dragon.
Classic. I think this one's competently done, and the interesting choice the players have to deal with. And the fun conceit, I think, put this one in my top couple adventures.
Yeah.
But after the Forbidden Veil, but before the Shivering Death, is Before the Storm. We're up to 10th level now, and we're talking black dragons here, and Rob's favorite thing, pirates.
Yeah, I do wish that I liked this one better. I don't dislike it, but it is of pirates, and I kind of really like the idea conceptually of pirates being allied with a black dragon. I think that's a pretty neat idea. The setting here, the town of Respite, has some cool stuff going on with elemental gems that help like control the weather. They get stolen, and the storm is going to destroy the city. There's a, ticking clock, some urgency. You got to stop the Cobblehook Corsairs. This one, I think, is also pretty competently done, but it's I don't know. There's just like not really enough there for me to get excited about. I wish I had a more specific complaint. It's just not fully fleshed out to me. I think.
Yeah, I think this is why you're having trouble articulating this. This is a real middle of the road adventure. It's not bad. and nothing in it will blow your socks off. There's a evil dragon controlling pirates, and there's a fetch quest to get a magic item from that dragon / maybe kill it so it stops controlling the pirates. I love the line, an evil dragon named Sablewing has goaded the pirates towards violence. Before they were unviolent pirates.
They were like the pirates of Penzance, Matt. They were just hanging out and singing songs before Sablewing turned them violent.
Oh my God. If you leaned into that and put in the pirate storeroom, because you get to talk to some of the pirate dissenters who didn't want to do that, and they had a bunch of costumes, and they were actually kind of more of a floating musical troupe that occasionally stole from people, but mostly to give them cred, then it would be a top tier adventure.
All right, feel free to run it that way, folks, because as written, it's kind of so-so.
I think that's all I got to say about Before the Storm, other than you're only allowed to have the rules text for rallying villagers to do a bucket brigade using an influence action once per book. This is the second time we've got the players creating a bucket brigade in this adventure. The first one was in the Baker's Doesn't, and we've got it again. I just want to call that out. Should only use that once. And then we're on to chapter 8, The Shivering Death.
Shivering Death. This one's a white dragon in the frozen north, and there are giants, and there are mammoths, and there are druids, and there's a I like the dragon's name. It's Chaladax. That's good. I like saying that. Chaladax.
Yeah. The conceit here is the players are sent from a village where it's hot and too hot to this place where there are giants that are too cold, to get a ritual that will make the place that's hot not so hot. Fine as a setup, but here's the thing, Rob. The white dragon is also doing a deal with these giants, and while that's slightly different than a black dragon controlling pirates, the themes of these two adventures are almost exactly the same. You start in a place where the weather is bad and you need something to make the weather not so bad, and then there's an evil dragon that's controlled some people in a dungeon. I'm like, this is exactly the same as the last adventure. And if I had to choose between the two, I liked Before the Storm better than Shivering Death. I think it had a better dungeon layout.
This doesn't have the benefit of at least having interesting pirates or a vaguely interesting setting. It's just the frozen north. I do like the art style in this one. It's I'm having trouble putting my finger on what it's like, but it's got a very distinct visual appeal to me, but it's pretty boring. You're icy. You're on Hoth. Whatever.
It looks like Samurai Jack shit.
That's what it is. What I'm thinking of. Yeah, it's a distinct animation style. It looks cool. But yeah, this is perfectly fine, but nothing to me very, very unique or interesting.
Yeah, this was another middle-of-the-road one, but I think slightly below Before the Storm, which means we're on to Chapter 9, A Copper for a Song. We'll leave it up to you listeners to guess the color of the dragon.
This one is fun. Matt, I'm sure you're going to say this because it takes place in God's Breath. Now, real D&D heads
we're back.
Will remember God's Breath from Journeys of the Radiant Citadel. It is the sort of Southern Gothic, Mississippi-themed Delta land where there was a spooky-ass ghost story. I loved that. I love this place, and I was delighted that we're back here. I did the Leo pointing meme thing as soon as I read God's Breath. I was like, hey, that's cool. And actually, I actually really liked this adventure. It was very, once again, because we've got a copper dragon, like Matt pointed out, the writers tend to kind of swing for the fences with these, and I think this one they nailed, but or came pretty close to.
Here's one thing that I like. So these dungeon delves all have a dungeon. This one has one that's hey, there's a giant hill giant camp full of angry hill giants. There's a bunch of entrances to this dungeon that you can find in the caves full of hostile hill giants. Go in wherever you want. It's a great design for a dungeon. I love it.
I want to say something too. At the center of this adventure is, well, it's a song, a poem. There's an actual song, a copper for a song. I'm not gonna to read it or sing it for you because it's long, but I will say that 9 times out of 10 when I read a poem or anything that rhymes in a fantasy book, and especially in a adventure or campaign book, it is abysmal dog shit. This is maybe even okay, maybe good, but it's not bad. So I was extremely pleased that it did not cause me pain to read this song.
The song is good. The poem is not bad, as Rob said. Here's the catch, right? With this is the poem has clues to the location of the lair that has the MacGuffin, the answer to the song, the missing part, the thing the characters need to like solve the crisis, like back in town. The problem is all of the clues rely on in-universe knowledge. And so what they did in the one shot is just basically give you a bunch of NPCs that can tell you what the clues are. This would be perfect if it was in a longer adventure where the players had been adventuring around God's Breath and they were like, oh yeah, obviously that line about, hills of gold, that means that area. Perfect, right? But because the players like have to go to the NPCs first because it's in a one shot, it's sort of, I don't know. To me, it takes away the oomph of having such a great poem that has clues about the adventure in it away. Just a minor nitpick, but
I agree,
and I be helped think this in a one-shot anthology. I think.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because not technically, I think if your players are careful, cautious, and ask a lot of questions and role play well, you can get through this adventure with very little, maybe no combat. That's unlikely, but it really rewards role play, social encounters, investigating, talking to everybody. This is hard to do and hard to write, and I think they did a really good job here. Matt's correct that you kind of need it doesn't quite work because you have to know a lot of things that only like people in the setting will know. But if you can get around that, this is a really neat adventure. This is number 1 for me, Matt. I really liked this one, even with all of its flaws.
Yeah. Here's my advice for this one is you can, because you're writing your own adventure, if you don't even have to change the poem, because as Rob said, the poem is good. You just have to plant some things in some locations that your players have already encountered or heard about or already like have a map of to overcome the clue problem. And then you've got like this great role play, negotiation, stealth dungeon to do with a great like final encounter with a good dragon, which unlike the other ones isn't just like, I've been misled by evil. It's just like, no, I'm chilling. I'm guarding my lair. I have a reason to be hostile to you when you show up, which is I'm protecting adopted green dragon wormlings. So I might fight you if you're belligerent or don't negotiate well. I think that's a great final encounter too.
Yeah, a well-written dragon too, because it's hard to do this, but like even good dragons should be menacing, should be threatening, should be kind of powerful and different and potentially dangerous, even if they're not evil. And I think I really liked how Nakari was written in this. Yeah.
Great one. And that was chapter 9, A Copper for Your Song. And we're still at level 12 as we get to our last anthology of the adventure, Dragons of the Sandstone City.
That's right. We are finally there. We are in the desert now, and this one, I don't want to make it sound, I don't want this to sound like it's not good, but like this is to me like a big old classic Egyptian themed dungeon adventure, and I like that. I think that's good. There's more to it than that, but like at its core, that's what we're dealing with, and it's fun. It's a big old dungeon with Anubis dragon statues and all kinds of weird stuff, and there's a dragon, and yeah.
This one is basically, while there's like an opening, instigating incident that you can use and some Sphinx negotiations, this one is just a dungeon crawl. I do have to say, I like this dungeon. It's got some cool encounters, some neat rooms, a great layout, and a final, like, terrifying evil boss dragon to kill. So I would say it's one of the better dungeons, though there isn't much else to this adventure besides that.
Yeah, I think as a dungeon, it's great. There isn't really an adventure besides that, but honestly, that's just fine. I would be happy with 10 well-written dungeons, and this is workable. This is very workable as is, and unlike a lot of the others, very easy to squeeze into a larger campaign. The dungeon is great. It's a lot of fun, and the big boss is cool. There's not like nothing like blew my socks off here, but it was good. It was fun to read and it was interesting, and I liked the dungeon.
Yeah. And there's genies, there's sphinxes, there's mummies. You'll get all of your favorite Egyptology things in here. Yeah. And Rob, sadly, that is the end of our delving. We've delved into every dragon. That's right. And again,
it's all the dragons.
Like Rob said, there's a thing at the end of each adventure that's the history of every dragon, which is just some art pages. I guess I was hoping for, when I saw the heading, a history of green dragons. I was like, oh, are this going to be like a couple paragraphs walking through the evolution of green dragons? And, they started off as this. And no, it's just pictures. They're pretty pictures, though. So,
I mean, we already got a dragon book, which we liked and was pretty good. And I appreciate that they maybe realized that the adventures themselves were kind of thin. And so they're like, let's collect some classic art and share it with you. I don't feel, look, this is a low bar, and I don't want to sound like I'm complaining too much, but like I don't feel like my time was wasted with this book. It wasn't my favorite, and I wouldn't have probably bought it if I didn't want to read it for the pod. But like it was neat, and there were definitely like enough interesting adventures here that it was worth going through. If you were very enthusiastic about dragons, if you like the art, if you liked one of these adventures, this is worth picking up. If none of those things are particularly compelling to you, you can definitely skip this one.
Yeah, if you like Wizards one-shot anthologies, this is a straight down the middle of the road one. Like we said, like in our review, there are some pretty good ones. There are some not so good ones and plenty of ones in between. There was no, I think because the conceit was like so much lower and the theme was so much stronger, there was no adventure here that I was like, holy shit, what a good like one shot to roll your players through. And at the same time, there were none that were like, well, this is completely unfixable, because at the end of the day, it's a dungeon with a dragon in it. So there you go. The first adventure book for Wizards of the Coast, 5th edition, D&D 2024 edition.
There you have it, folks. Yeah, our very first, adventure book anthology for D&D 5e 2024. It's fine. Resounding endorsement from DM of none. Yeah.
It's fine. We're fine here on day 3 of Wizards Miss. Day 4 of Wizards Miss. We'll I can't even remember anymore. We'll see you tomorrow for something else. Thanks for listening.
See you tomorrow for the 4th day of Wizards Miss. Thanks for listening, everybody, and keep rolling them dice.